Back there. Let me call this meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here. All right. Correspondence. Do I hear a motion to receive and file the correspondence?
So moved.
Support.
Motion Nagy, second Sinkowitz. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business.
I have no additions, Mr. President.
Do we have a closed session?
That's on
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, sorry, it said F, I missed. Okay, so in that case, no additions. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Call to the public. First call to the public, an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. A sparse crowd out there. Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public. And we'll move on to item 7, approval of consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion Kaznicki.
So moved. Second.
Second Nagy. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Nedrow.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Nagy.
Yes.
Kaznicki.
Yes.
Hubbell.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make a comment. I was looking at the minutes of the Parks and Rec, and I was very impressed. They got some really good ideas. I just hope that, the groups get together and put something together, but I thought the camp out and some of that other stuff was a nice idea to utilize that park.
Cool.
The problem being that just there's not enough people to go around. We got a lot of good ideas, but we're wearing everybody out because there's so many activities.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
we need to pick and prioritize.
Yep.
More volunteers.
Can't do everything at once. Much though I'd like to. All right, item 12A, 2014 road maintenance bids. Michelle, you're on.
Well, we were actually very pleased with the turnout. We ended up getting. We were very pleased with the turnout for the bids this year. We ended up getting 5 bids. They range between $663,000 to $802,000. And we reviewed all the bids, made sure that they were all comparable to one another, and we recommend that Cadillac Asphalt is awarded the bid for $663,330.
All right. Questions?
Is this based on the 4-foot shoulder on each side?
Yes, this is based on the 4-foot shoulder. So whatever the village council makes decisions on for next month, that will set the unit price. It was a unit price bid, so how everything works out is based on unit price.
Pat?
Michelle, relative to, I know we got a lot going with Glengarry, McCoy, and Oak Island as far as project timeline and when they anticipate we can start this and when we think we might be able to complete it, whether it's overall or whatever, and it falls within Cadillac's.
We are hoping that they say that they're ready and willing and able to start in May. They should be able to complete all the work within 60 days from the date. I believe there is an award if they finish it early. So as well as, I think there's a penalty if they finish it late. So.
I didn't go back and compare it to the earlier set of bids to me, but it looks like this is a much better price than we got when we went out in the
It is
fall.
a much better price, yes. I believe the prices before were over $1 million, and this one came in. I know we shaved some stuff off.
We pulled the 2 projects out, but that
Yeah.
was still, they were only like, $150,000 or something.
Right, so this was, Yeah, I was very pleased with the bid prices. I think that everybody definitely sharpened their pencils. The few low bidders, I spoke with them many times on the phone, and they were very anxious to get the bids. I think it's a benefit to council and the village to do it first thing in the spring, because it's guaranteed work for them as soon as they can actually start paving, so.
The other question, you mentioned McCoy, what is that, paving or is that a bike path?
It's a pathway, so.
Is that going to be paralleling McCoy?
It is going to be McCoy, paralleling McCoy down through Clara Miller Park.
Lakeview.
And Lakeview, yes.
Okay. And the other thing is, I know, I should have asked you this before, but you mentioned that the 4-foot shoulders in there. Is all that other stuff in there, patching up on South Commerce and extending the egress and egress into the park?
Everything that was shown was just the entrances into the, for Glengarry Road, the entrances, decel acceleration lanes are all included in that. I believe that is it. So just once they enter into the subdivision, they do a clean cut and they match grade there.
Right, but it was pretty much the full set of projects that we looked at
Yes.
last fall, that included the entries there, it included Oak Island, it
Correct.
included.
There's also that section of Commerce Township that, on Commerce Road that
That little
bump.
bump
And
out.
then the
yeah.
other one was that it was brought up to extend the shoulders into the, through the easement and into the baseball diamond and some of the other
Right.
facilities
Yep.
there. But that's not in this.
No, that is not in this stuff.
Thank you.
All right. Further questions?
I guess, when would the village be anticipating, based upon a recommendation from the engineer, about when we would want to get a contract placed with them? I mean, there's still some I's to dot and T's to cross, et cetera, once we.
I think we could go ahead and award the contract tonight. The details of exactly which project they would be doing, because it's a unit price contract.
Mhm.
So they've said for this batch of work, this is what we will charge you on the, on the unit batch of construction. If we go forward and decide to remove some pieces of it, we can do that.
You are exactly right. It's a unit price. We can add work as necessary. We can pull back from work as necessary to stay within bid allowances. We would not sign the contract until we verify the bonds are in place and you make the decisions of the actual work, which would be in place next month, so.
Especially with the frost in the ground and everything, it's gonna be a little later than anticipated, and plus that culvert has to get installed before we do this, so.
Yeah, I know we've still got a few months to sort out the details.
Maybe 3.
Well, I would like to entertain a motion to give the 2014 road repaving on Glengarry Road and the McCoy Pathway and Oak Island to Cadillac Asphalt at an amount of $663,330.
Actually, Ed, could I have that as a motion to award the contract for road maintenance, PE job number 14201 to Cadillac Asphalt as presented? Because it's a unit cost one, there could be a little up and down on the final cost. Yep. Okay, so that's the motion I heard from Ed.
A second on that.
That'll work.
I got a second from Pat. Further discussion?
I have a question regarding that on the third paragraph down after the grid. It's regarding the Oak Island and then the sewer taps and so on. Maybe this is a question for Mike, I'm not sure, but to clarify, the paving's gonna start, it's for Oak Island Drive, right?
It is not for the entire drive. It is only for the section of Oak Island that is down from Canal down the hill where it's really rough. And it's a very small road area going down to, I believe it serves 4 homes, down to the peninsula. That is the only section of Oak Island Drive that is being proposed to be done.
Is this a section that runs towards Mr. Scott's home, or is this like,
Yep.
it's not
Yes.
it's not the road off Canal, it's, I mean.
No.
No.
No, not down the canal. It's,
From the hill down.
once you go
It's on
past
the hill
canal, it's the little
down.
batch that sweeps down that little hill.
And the sewer taps in question would be the ones that would feed when connected, like those homes at the very base as the hill goes down, I see.
Absolutely. That sewer, because the easement was so small for that road, the sewer was put directly under the road because we had to stay away from the lake on both sides and outside of people's property. So it was put down directly down the middle of the road. So when they get that open up to redo it, we certainly wouldn't want to reopen it up in the future and then have to cut and re-asphalt over the brand new pavement. So
So let me make sure I understand. So what are we doing down there?
we have been working with Sharon and Mike to make sure that we have monies within the general sewer fund, sewer and water fund. So we will be lending the money for the sewer taps into the sanitary force main there, just to get it out from underneath the influence of pavements.
Right, so we're doing the tap out to a certain point now before we pave.
Correct.
And then when people want to hook up, okay. Yeah,
When they
that's
hook
what I
up,
thought.
they then have to pay for that tap that was done now. So it's not like they're getting it for free. They will have to pay for that. It's just being paid back to the sewer and water fund.
Okay, cool, that's what I thought.
Michelle, in anticipation of next month's meeting, is your firm preparing a sequence of different alternatives as we've been discussing? Is that what we're going to be looking at?
Absolutely. Mike is going to make a presentation to you, and he's going to have it in a booklet form of all of the different options that you have to go with. 2-foot shoulders, 4-foot shoulders, pathways, how wide to make the pathways, whether to extend a shoulder to allow for a pathway. And that is going to be your call. He's going to be giving you the pros and cons of that. And you'll have that decision to make of which option you want to take with that.
Okay.
That's part of my argument with the 4-foot shoulder, is that a mile and a half of 4 foot of asphalt, Laguna needs to be repaved. We still need to pave the Vita Trail when that gets in, so there's a lot of asphalt work that has to be done, and I hope we would use as much common sense as possible on this.
In the discussion with the path going down Glengarry on the south side of the road, and it was clear from South Commerce to the Vita Trail pretty much. After that, the trees go into play, and there it gets much more confusing or much more difficult to accommodate everything. But the 4 foot wide shoulder, paved shoulder, there is room to, if need be, to accommodate that shoulder all the way down to Benstein, correct?
Correct.
I think there was also some discussion that it doesn't always have to be 4 feet.
Right.
You could do 3 feet on one side, 2 on the other, shifting how the road goes in the center line. I think there was discussion, so that's why we're looking forward to.
I think that's one of the options that we're going to have, is making,
There are certain areas, right by the dam, I think even Mike said it'd be very difficult because of the road, the guard that's going right through there. That's only 2.5 feet off the road shoulder, so.
Right, there's definitely some areas where we'll be
Yeah.
bringing it in that you're not looking to have any bike traffic or anything going through.
See, the one thing that I think some of our newer members are missing, the whole idea of having this infrastructure of parks and paths was to get people off the road. And if you build a 4 foot wide shoulder, you're inviting the people to get back on the road. And like Ron said, from Glengarry to the park right here, you can stay off the shoulder. And Mike had mentioned that. But once you get there, you can go to the other park, you can drive around through the other subdivisions. And the real concern I have with is that when you put a 4 foot shoulder on, you don't have the same base and the same thickness of asphalt that you have on the whole road. And for you people that weren't here, when we did Wolverine Lake Drive, we wanted to make it wider for the bike path. We went through one winter and all the edges of the pavement cracked, broke away. I went out there and did some testing on my own and found out that they paved right over topsoil, or there was maybe 2 inches of gravel. So we had to get that company back out here to cut out a wedge, add base, compact it, and repave those shoulders. And of course, in 1 year, it's been repaired and it seems to hold well, but you got a checkerboard of repair work all the way through the roads that were done, not Laguna, but the other streets in that subdivision.
That sounds like an oversight issue during
Well,
paving, but we can't have this discussion next month, though,
Yeah.
also.
I think
yeah,
it's a
we'll
little
have this
premature.
discussion again next month, so.
The plans do show that the base is supposed to extend to the the same distance as the asphalt shoulder. The drainage along the edge of the road will sometimes get under and undermine the base coming out, and that is a lot of the reason that you get a lot of the cracking on the edge of the pavement. So your concerns are very valid and definitely something that village needs to discuss, the council needs to discuss for the next, with all the pros and cons sitting in front of them.
And Ajax realizes that if they do this 4-foot shoulder, that they're, Cadillac,
Mhm.
that they're gonna have to remove material in place and compact material underneath it.
Cadillac is very aware. I've spoken with many times on the phone. They asked me questions about removing the existing soil in order to match existing grades. They know that we expect a good solid base of crushed limestone, and we're requiring an 8-inch base. We're requiring the required amount of the standard lifts of asphalt, I believe 1.5 inches, or 2 inches and 1.5 inches. So yes, they are aware that that would be the case.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion?
Maybe just one quick
Sure.
question, I guess. I mean, regarding the unit price, this means that their pay for actual work completed. However, this means that costs could go above or below estimated, quoted estimate if the actual quantity is different from what expected due to unforeseen circumstances. What are the possible unforeseen circumstances?
No,
No,
part
that
is
that is
included for us.
not unforeseen. Their prices are set. The unforeseen is if they open up a road, say on Oak Island Drive, and it ends up being a ton of peat. And we would never want to put asphalt or the base directly on peat because peat has such a tendency to compact very easily. So we would want them to remove the peat and backfill with a clean sand and then put the base and pave on that. Those are the kind of things that are unforeseen. We won't know until they open it all up and have it ready for us to see.
Anybody else? Roll call vote?
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Gagey.
Yes.
Kazaki.
Yes.
Humboldt.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes?
Medford.
Yes. All right, thank you, council. Anything else on engineering while we're seeing none? Item B, Zambelli Fireworks Manufacturing Company. I know we have Mike Stack from the Fireworks Committee here. So, Sharon, you want to introduce this to us? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, this is a contract for 3 years with Zambelli, who has been doing our fireworks for quite some time. There's a increase this year to 14,000 from the 13 that we've had for many, many years. We've had a phone conference with them, and they're looking at some new items for us, and as always, they've done a great job, so I recommend that we approve a 3-year contract. Mike, staff, do you have anything to say?
No, Zambelli's been very good, and they've held their cost for us for the past 3 years. They're willing to do the same thing going forward. We discussed tweaking the show a little bit, and we still have to work within our parameters of the 420. We still have to work within our parameters of the 420 feet in each direction, but going east and west this year, we have to keep at least 500 feet. So we've got a couple things that are gonna be kind of neat coming up in this show, but Zambelli's been great to work with. They came out here, we met with them last week, had a great conversation, and when we have gone out for bids in the past, Zambelli has blown the others literally away, no pun intended, you know. Their shell count's much higher, they do a great job, they do whatever we ask them to do. They work well with us, we work well with them, so that's about it. Should be a good show.
So I think I would entertain a motion to award the fireworks contract to Zambelli Brothers as presented and waive competitive bidding.
So moved. Support.
So motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow. Further discussion, and by the way, just to be clear to everybody, as presented is 3 years, 14,000 a year.
And we will have the funds to cover it. We have the golf outing coming up, the first Saturday of June. We'll have the boat back again, starting August 7th.
Ah, the boat is coming back this year, huh?
And Wixom possibly may use it a couple nights for a few events, so that'll be good. We're gonna throw a wider net this year.
Rest up, gentlemen, a busy August portends. Okay, further discussion. Roll call vote.
Licky,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Kazneki,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes?
Pedro.
Yes.
Sinkowitz.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries. Item 12C, village goals review. I thought this would be a good time, good meeting for us to take a look back at the goal-setting session we did at the beginning of last year, see how we've done against them, and also have maybe a little discussion about if there are things we want to follow up, things we'd like to look back at. When I looked at it, I kind of went through it. I thought to myself, wow, we really knocked a lot of the things on here that we were aiming at off. So what I figured I would do is just kind of go through item by item, talk about it. If we have, questions about where we are or what we're doing, let me know. We can address them. And then when we get to the end of it, let's talk about if there's anything that we would like us to make a goal for this year as we go forward. So, okay, so item 1, increase lake improvement budget in accordance with budget cycle to deal with following issues. Laminar flow aeration. I think we made great progress on that. We're proceeding with the pilot, so done and done. Conversion of the Helmsford well to an augmentation well with proper aeration. Also progressing. Improved greenaway maintenance. Kind of had a question about that. I knew we had done some maintenance work around there this summer. Is that?
Yes, we did. We installed new boulders and worked on the gabion baskets and cleaned that area out.
So, there we are. Improved or additional weed harvester drop-off sites. We have no sites. We do not yet have a harvester, so
It's cold.
that obviously is an area toward, and also along with that, item E, proper equipment, especially GPS for the new harvester. So that is still a discussion point among us. But all in all, I think really good progress on some of those lake goals. Item 2, Administrative Committee to develop recommendations for village staffing issues by June 1st, 2013. And we went through and got these, reinstating raises for non-union employees, review of the police chief position, and village staffing levels. So we went through that, we did that, and brought back some recommendations, and in general, I think we're happy with where we are as a staff. Item 3, Budget Committee to develop 5-year capital expenditure plan in accordance with fiscal year 2014 budget cycle, issues and areas to include. I think we made really good progress on that. I don't know that I would say we have a 100% clear view of every capital expenditure we might make for the next 5 years, but I thought we got a pretty good view of what the size of those were likely to be. And I did want to kind of go through this list and talk about some of them as we go through. First item there, any potential real estate acquisitions. We really did not, as part of that, address and say we would like to do that. I think the item that was foremost in mind when we put that there was whether there was some potential for some parkland for neighborhood parks. I think that's still something that we should consider as we go forward and worthy of more discussion. Roads, pathways, sidewalks, et cetera. I think we got a real good clear view of that and are proceeding. Dam and burn maintenance, same thing there. Other lake equipment and maintenance, especially laminar flow aeration. Again, we've got a pretty good idea of where we're going to be for the next few years there. DPW, police, DPW equipment and police equipment. Got a good view of what we need, and we are, as part of that, addressing some things that really were overdue to be addressed. Things like the heater in the DPW that was very old, very inefficient, and very close to death.
Pretty good timing on that, too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I, that review, not just in terms of being ready with where we are in terms of financing, but also in terms of looking and saying, hey, what really needs attention? I think it's paid some dividends.
John?
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, does the property that the village is on, is
Mhm.
this DNR land?
Yes.
This is leased from the DNR, yep.
Okay, and our building that's on here, what is our timetable? is it a 100-year lease? Or?
Yes, I believe it was 100 years.
Yeah, I thought it was like $1.99
Mhm.
year lease.
Well, I
or
was just
something.
curious that, if we're gonna fix the building up and do all this kind of stuff, I'd hate to see in 5 years, oh, by the way, you guys.
Our forecloses on us.
I mean, I don't know what the, maybe Jennifer knows, I mean, with the ramifications, I mean, is it something that when it comes to the end, that you're terminated and you go out, or do you have to sign another lease and start all over again?
I don't know.
So Ed's wondering when we get to the end of our 99-year lease on this
We gotta
land.
be over halfway there now.
I think we have to negotiate another 99-year lease. I'm reasonably optimistic that the state would extend our lease, especially because as part of that, we do things like maintain a certain amount of it that goes down there. so.
I guess I have to look at your lease, but generally that's how it works.
Okay.
They're pretty common. HCMA has them, DNR.
Unless you had cottages on the Great Bear Sand Dunes.
Yeah, the DNR
They didn't do
sometimes,
that, of course,
yeah,
but,
well,
Yeah, well,
we
it's
kinda
private
changed
and
their mind
municipal.
halfway paddling up the stream.
I think even if it's a 99-year lease, we're still good till 2053, so.
That's right.
So we've got a ways to go on that yet.
I think we'll need to redo by then. Yeah, you've got time.
However, that will be an item for a future council.
There you go.
Okay, and speaking of building exterior, building interior, we've made pretty good progress on getting, plans in place. I think we're looking at, do we have a timeframe yet for actually doing
No,
construction?
no, I don't have information back from the planner
Architect.
and the architect.
Park and Rec, we've gone through some items, and a couple of them that I really want to mention is, we're working on securing equipment for the Vita Trail. We've looked at some of the other equipment needs that are out there.
Cameras at the park.
We've got cameras at the park now, we've got cameras down at the boat launch. Really useful equipment there. And other items, but I think that item there, number 3, was really, I think it was really fruitful for us. I think it put us in, and I know I personally, as a council person, feel a lot better about having that view of our village, where we are, what our needs are, knowing that we don't have anything looming, as it were, out there that can really impact us. Anything else on item 3 before we look at additional goals?
Well, I can say from my years on council, this is one of the first times that we had such a big list to go through and weeded it down to 25 or so, and pretty much have accomplished, or at least working on accomplishing everything on the list, so kudos to the council and all the other committees that put time and effort into this.
Yeah, when you're in.
It's usually on, what, at the end of the agenda, what is it, business?
Pending business.
business, yeah.
Yeah, and it was one of the things that we talked about when we did the goal setting session, is let's make sure we hit the top priorities. Yeah, when you're involved in the day-to-day, it often feels like we're really spinning our wheels. And then, so looking at this, I was really, really pleased at what we've done so far. Additional goals, Park and Rec issues, Park and Rec Committee to examine possibility of a South Commerce pathway. We have established that committee. We've started up, we've had some meetings, we're doing some outreach with Commerce, we're gonna do some outreach with Walled Lake, so long way to go before we get a pathway, but at least we've started that process. Neighborhood parks, we have established the park inventory, and I think we're gonna proceed with our first neighborhood park this year, so kudos to us. Clara Miller, updates in infrastructure, we talked about a little bit of that in the capital expenditure, but again, getting a clear view, making the improvements, security cameras for sure. And there. Admin committee to develop plan and recommendation for tax foreclosed Heron Hills parcels. We started down that path. We got a purchaser. That was one of the things that this time last year that was really a big unknown for us, and I think we've settled that issue. Finance committee to make recommendation for long-term village fund balance target in accordance with the budget cycle. I would note that I don't think as a finance committee, we did actually establish what a good target for that would be. So when we reconvene the Finance Committee, and we should soon, we're getting into the budget cycle, I think that's a topic we should discuss. Staff and Admin Committee to conduct charter review with recommendations for ballot proposal if needed. So, have we actually done that? I
No.
don't think we have done that yet. We put a date before the 2014 council election, so we still have a bit of time, but we should take a look there.
Excuse me, John, if I can interject, what, not being familiar with the process, what would be these recommendations for ballot proposals? I mean, is that something that we'd want to put on the ballot? I mean, what have we
So-
done in the past as an example? I mean, I'm just curious in what we meant by that.
It would be something like a charter amendment, if there are pieces of our charter, occasionally pieces of the charter get out of step with state law, or there are pieces of the charter where we have looked occasionally and said, gosh, you know, that doesn't make sense, that's not the way we conduct business or want to conduct business. Those are the specific things that I had in mind.
For example, the police department has to
Yeah.
hold an auction.
Ah, yeah,
Or the
that was
bikes.
a good
And
example.
we're required to hold an auction, and what happens is we spend $1,000 more than we would ever take in at an auction for doing that, when in turn, we could actually, some of these other places have donated these items to other 501c3 organizations to take them off our hands, which alleviates half of the garage out here for the DPW, because I have 23 bikes out there that are gonna be worth probably $27 before it's all over, and we could get rid of them. We don't have to hold them for 3 or 4 years until they build up to make it worth their while. So those
So-
are the type of things that we could,
So,
great charter things.
so Patrick, anything, if we want to change anything in the charter that's substantial, anything in the charter, we have to have a vote of the people. So
Okay.
the language means whatever item you think needs changing in the charter has to be on the ballot for a vote.
Okay. Thank you.
And thanks, that was a good example. That was exactly one of the ones we talked about. Okay, so I think that's still on the to-do list. And planning to re-examine concept of a rental ordinance and make recommendation to council.
That was done.
And that was
Planning
done.
commission.
Yep. So, you know, I just want to say thank you to everybody on council, on the various commissions, to our administration, to our police, to our DPW, because a lot of work went into that, especially when we did the looking at the capital expenditure needs. We made great progress on that. Having said that, 2014 is a new year. We have a couple items from there that we would like to do, and I just kind of wanted to entertain if folks have things that they think we should be looking at, that we should be putting on a list of goals to achieve in this calendar year. We as a council have 9 more regular meetings before our next election, so. I had potentially 2 items I thought we should look at. One of which I mentioned before, and it was part of one of those checkdowns. I think we should really take a look as to whether we want to acquire property on the south and east side of the village for neighborhood parks. We've done some more due diligence with that. The pump house properties, which might have seemed like straightforward answers there, really aren't because of some deed restrictions around them and some other issues. We still have no parkland down in those parts. I'm not saying that we should make it a goal to necessarily purchase property, but I think we should look at that question, look at the finance of it, look at the costs of it and the need and the opportunity, and make a recommendation. And I think that might be a good topic for the finance committee.
Johnny, when you're saying that there are deed restrictions, an example, I live down in the south end of Helmsford Well House around the corner from me. You're saying there's deed restrictions on that well property that would prevent us, at least at this time, to make that into a neighborhood park?
Yeah, my understanding is that I think it's that one and maybe the one down off Penny Lake. They both came with a deed that says, to be used for community well and, this purpose, and really not necessarily for a park. Is it possible that we could go through some long process and get to a point of being able to do some parkland? Maybe, but the properties have a well right in the middle, and they have a well house in the middle of them, so that there's some issues there.
Okay.
Finding the right parcel on the south and east side might also, have some issues too, because we are a built-out community, so.
Yeah, okay.
We were just talking in our Park and Rec meeting on Monday. Lynn brought up that point, that those areas that we thought could be parks, we found out they really couldn't because of some restrictions. But if that path ever were to go through that, maybe we could add a bench.
I think we could put a bench on it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it's not totally forgotten, but it wouldn't be an actual park.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something I would like us to see us look at as a goal.
Has the Parks and Rec decided what they want at these parks?
Yes.
What, was
Yes.
gonna be a swing set, a parking lot, a fence?
Yeah, that was that small list that we approved a couple months ago.
We did that
It
a
was-
couple months ago. We voted on it
It
as
was,
council.
yeah, it was like
council.
swing set and bench and slide or something.
Waste baskets.
Waste
basket.
baskets.
And the other question I want to ask, have the residents where this park's gonna go been contacted and asked what they think about having a park next to their house? Or in their subdivision?
I think that's part of the process that we have to start when we go forward with Oak Island.
Because I
Well, that was
personally
not-
I don't have a problem with the park, but I can sympathize with residents that, you know, potentially, it could be a disturbance, or it could potentially be, you know, a walk in the park. But I
So to
think,
speak.
the residents in the communities or the neighborhoods that we're planning to put them, they should be contacted and aware of what's happening
Yep.
before.
That was discussed, and we've talked about that in our meetings, and I think that, but we could talk later, but, you know, if you were gonna be in attendance possibly at our next meeting, we could talk about it some more. But yeah, that's on our agenda, it's on our radar. It's been discussed in our meetings that we need to set up a meeting.
In addition to that, and that was discussed on the council level as well.
Yeah.
The fact that about, you know, including outreach, but at the same time not being dictated by the response to that outreach. And that's where we came upon the fact that is the changing demographics of the neighborhoods change, you know, year by year by year and so on. And so, I'm a little confused. I think we have discussed it.
Yeah, we've had some discussion around that. We're gonna proceed, you know, hey, Oak Park is our pioneer park, so we're gonna learn a lot as we go through that.
Right.
But, you know, when we look down at the east and the south side, which are really the farthest from Clara Miller, you know, one of the things that we looked at as next steps there would have been the pump house properties, and that looks like it's not really a good option. So I think we should take a look at whether there are properties or whether there's the potential to acquire some property down there that would make a good neighborhood park. So,
A question about property, acquiring property, specifically for parks. Just, is your thoughts that go that we would find vacant land, undeveloped residential property perhaps, or would we buy maybe a foreclosed home or something that is it's not really livable at that point, and raising it or something? I mean,
So, yeah,
what are your
I-
thoughts on that?
I think that's one of the options. There have occasionally come up, I've seen, you know, a few houses pop up for sale. We've had a couple foreclosures in that neighborhood where, you know, they went for a very low price and the home needed substantial rehabilitation. We've also had down on the south side, we've had a couple of fairly large corner double lots that might have made, you know, potentially attractive parklands. They had a viable house on them, but, you know, that might have also been a good option in there. So I don't have a recommendation for, we want this parcel, we want that parcel.
No, I agree.
We want to spend this, we want to spend that. What I'm saying is, we should take a look at it and see where we are with that and if we
Yeah.
want to proceed, because that seems like the next step if we're really going to get a decent park down there.
I kind of agree with that, because I think if we limit our thoughts to just finding a vacant property, for instance, the Greenway, whatever, I mean, then we're really limited at that point, I think.
Yeah.
But if you open it up to homes that probably would have to be totally rebuilt, before the market does rebound, now would be the near term would be the time to do that. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. And there may be a couple other options down there. I mean, we need to look at them, but I think it's a good possibility. The other thing, actually, I'd like to see, and I think I'd like us to send it to finance it as well, is I'd like finance to take a look at the trash fee and see if there's a possibility to potentially reduce a part of it. Something that came up during our discussion of trash and where we are, where our fund balance is, the fact that we're in a much more stable position now than we were, is you know, we can't eliminate the trash fee altogether, but maybe there's a part of it, specifically the leaf removal portion of it, that maybe the village could absorb back into the general fund. So I'd like us to take a look at that.
Good idea. Yeah, I brought that up a while back ago, but what, with our new contract, what is it, about $20? The yearly bill will be less, Sharon? I mean, is there a number?
I don't think Mike's got that all figured out yet, have you,
Okay.
Mike?
No big deal, I just,
I don't remember the exact number, but it was around $30 a year less, I think.
okay. That wouldn't take much to get up to a nice refund amount.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's some reasonable possibility there. Again, we'll have to look at it, you know, with finance, see if it makes sense, but I think that would be a good goal for us too. So those were the two I thought I might like to see us add to our list for 2015, or, sorry, 2014. Anybody else?
Well, I don't know, the only other thought that comes to my mind, I don't know if it's now or just when we do our goal settings, but I think Park and Rec is still pretty serious about it be possible to add a little extension in Clara Miller Park where we could have room for storage and concessions and stuff. That's something still high on our list that really didn't get approved.
Yeah, although that was something that we certainly took a look at as part of the capital expenditure, and I think, you know,
We talked about it.
that was one of the items that we never came to a firm conclusion on, so maybe that's something in there that we need to go back and look at again.
Is it your recommendation that we maybe follow the same path that we followed so successfully to get through last year? That is to say, do another joint meeting, then follow it into the finance committee, and then come up with a plan?
We could, I think at this point, I think we can, we've sort of had this discussion here. I might entertain a motion to add, you know, finance committee to examine, you know, potential neighborhood park property acquisitions and to review, you know, the trash fee. I think if we add those two and we go back and we follow up on the list that we have right now, I think that puts us in pretty good stead for knocking down a few of those things. And like I said, I won't, you know,
I
if we've
think-
got other goals, new additional things, we can talk about them, but.
I'm not adverse to just furthering that discussion. I think admin committee should be part of that discussion though. I mean, the wisdom or you know, to clarify, is this something we should pursue? Before it even gets to finance, in my opinion, but maybe in conjunction with finance. You know, we could talk about,
Anybody's welcome to attend the meeting.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I mean, but there's two different things, I think, you know, the affordability, the wisdom of that versus the wisdom of even just going down that path, I think, they're two different things. I mean, skipping over, like, okay, let's just sort of finance, see whether, basically whether we can afford it, or how it impact our finances, versus flowing it through admin to see, you know, to analyze it and to see whether this is something that is really wise to do, whether we can afford it or not.
Or potentially, maybe we should have a work session and talk about it there. I mean, that full council work session, talk about it, maybe get Park and Rec down here, and look at our options. Talk about, you know, how desirable it is.
Well, the Parks Rec on the one hand, but then the, you know, reducing the fee for the trash removal. I mean, that's something that, I don't think it should just flow right to finance. I think we're missing it here. Either it goes through, either to a work session for full council, or very least to administration, prior to flowing it to finance. I think we're kind of skipping over some important steps here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Ron brought up a good point. I think we need to look at it in steps and make sure that this is really what we want to do as administration committee back to the council, and then go to the finance committee to fine tune it, shall we say. Okay, I think this, Ron makes a good point.
I guess it doesn't matter, but, you know, the whole idea of a committee is to do the research, get the information, and just make recommendations. You could do this, you could do this, you could do this, and then the whole council gets involved.
I will say the reason that I considered finance for it is, I think we do still have a little bit of work to do on our long-term, you know, fund balance goal. And I had thought of that trash discussion in particular as part of the looking at whether or not this is a sustainable option with a long-term goal. So, you know, the numbers of it, the actual numbers, I'm sure it would take Mike about 10 minutes to come up with the numbers of what that impact would be. I had really thought about it in terms of the context of our overall financial targets and our budget process.
Well, I think part of that discussion is the philosophical, for lack of a better terms, look at, is this the proper way to set up our revenue stream, or how to support our revenue stream? Is it fair, is it correct, and so on, you know? It goes beyond the numbers. And I think, in my opinion, it precedes the numbers. You make a determination how we want to finance this village, whether it's refuge or police or whatever, and then, you know, and then you break it down to numbers and tax rates and so on, and budgeting and so on and so forth, and that finance, to my opinion, feeds, that's the strength, that they bring clarity to that discussion. The prior discussion is, do we want to outsource certain services to fees and support other services through taxes? That's a discussion that I think is more suited for admin.
It's probably more suited for the council in total.
And that very well could be.
I
rather
think
than
John's
just
right on
admin.
that.
And that very well
I
could
think
be.
it belongs in council, we're representing the entire population, and then it can be dispersed to decisionary bodies.
You know, I'm fine with that too. I mean, I think, like John said, maybe a work session, but I mean, to take it right from that step, then throw it at finance, I think that's incorrect.
Well, certainly what I had in mind was taking a look, reviewing whether or not this one relatively small change in this one portion of our revenue stream was sustainable. That, to me, is an item for a committee. If we're talking about a significant discussion of how our revenue streams come in, that's a full council meeting. I would be very happy if we want to say, hey, let's do a work session on scheduling additional goals. We can call this a review of what we've done. Let's talk about whether we have additional goals, and people with some time might be able to think of additional items. And we can have a work session, we can talk about all of them. I will say, the one time that we probably can't have a work session unless council wants to proceed without me, and feel free, might be the fourth Monday of this month, because I'm gonna be out of town for work. But,
I'm gonna be
Fourth,
gone,
what
too.
day?
the fourth Wednesday of this, I'm gonna be out of town the last week of February.
So will I.
Me too.
So. But if we wanted to,
Let's put the kibosh on that.
We could always do it the third week.
we can do it the third, we can do it the fifth, we don't have a fifth week in February.
It should be next week.
We can do it the first week of March, either one of those are fine with me. So, okay, let's talk about, no, I was gonna say, we can talk about when we get to schedule, February 2014 work session. Do I hear a motion to, send additional goals for the 2014 calendar year to a work session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion Cumbo, second Scott. Further discussion on that motion?
Guess we just decide whether we want to do it this month or we want to do it next month.
Yeah, we'll figure out the scheduling of it when we get down
Yeah,
there.
I'm leaving on the last Wednesday and I come back on the first Wednesday.
So,
So if we're gonna do anything for me, next week would be probably the better of
okay, well, when we get down to item I, everybody bring your calendars, let's see what we can do. I would like us to have the discussion, and if we need to have a broader discussion, I'm good with that. And, take a couple weeks, talk with your neighbors, see if there's something else that you think we want to get done this year.
I think we need some time to think about it,
Digest it a bit.
digest it a bit.
I think, as you can see, the process of setting goals at the beginning of last year and working towards them worked really well for us. So, if we have to take a few more weeks to get them set and get them in motion, I think it's time well spent. So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Again, thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, committees. Thank you, everybody who made, that's a huge list of progress that we went through. Okay. Item D, Redwood Acquisition LLC. We have a request for an amendment to the purchase agreement. I'm going to let Sharon introduce this.
I'm gonna send it off to the attorney.
I'm going to send it to our attorney. Or she'll
Okay.
send it to the attorney.
So we have a purchase agreement that it's dated September 11th. I think that was the date you approved it. But there was a 150-day due diligence period in there for them to do all of the work that they needed to do to get us toward closing, and that date was expired Saturday. So there were two 90-day options or two 90-day extension periods in there. What they want to do, the only amendment to this purchase agreement, that's what you have in front of you, is they want to extend the due diligence period to June 10th and add another two 90-day periods onto that. So they're just changing the time frame a little bit because they need more time. And the reason why they need more time is because a lot of things, but we have to do an amendment to the master deed to get that building 10 out of the project, to do a withdrawal, and that's taking a little while. You know, just all this stuff is just time consuming. Part of what the title company is requesting is this, it's called due process certification, because you acquired this property through tax sale. So rather than having to go through a traditional quiet title action, they have this due process certification, which takes a long time to do. And that is a requirement of the title company now. And there's some extra engineering easement kind of stuff going on, but things are moving along. We've been back and forth on a very continuous basis, and I know that Redwood's working with Mike and the village. They just need more time for due diligence, so that's all that this is that's in front of you.
Just a clarification, we're working with a purchase agreement, or are we still working on a letter of an intent to work towards a purchase agreement?
You have a purchase agreement
We have a
signed.
purchase agreement.
You approved it in September.
Okay. And so literally, if you extended this all out, they can take their due diligence out till December of this year, correct?
Well, it's 2 90 days on top of
June.
June, so whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah.
December
Yeah.
10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 months.
They won't.
They're very anxious to
They
do this.
wanna get in.
It is this
Mhm.
due process certification takes forever, and this amendment to the master deed is taking a while, but, you know, it's all stuff that needs to be done and is required under your purchase agreement.
They
They're
are moving
responsible.
along in planning as far as
Yeah.
all the drawings and everything. They've putting
mean,
everything in place.
honestly, I
anyway,
think
so
if it were
I don't
to
think it's
run-
gonna be like they're gonna pull out.
No.
I don't think they're gonna pull out, it's just a question of,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're asking for, you know, 2
quite a
90
lengthy time.
Yeah.
As compared to most developments.
And I think it's just because we so quickly ate through all this time not realizing, or they so quickly ate through all this time not realizing how much time all of this was gonna take. They're definitely, being diligent about their due diligence.
Who's responsible for the taxes during that period? Is it the village or is it them?
It's tax.
There are no taxes.
They're already
Yeah.
on then.
Yeah,
Okay.
as of December 31st, 2013, we own, it's municipally owned, therefore zero value, therefore zero taxes.
You have a purchase agreement in place, but you haven't closed on the property yet, so it stays.
Which means they're not carrying any cost on it while they're doing due diligence either. Is there a reason why we couldn't take them to June and then another 90 and then come back and look at another 90 just to keep their toes a little bit to the fire, everybody's toe to the fire? I mean, I don't see many contracts where you move out the possibility of a full year while these due diligence issues are happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're just looking for a warm and fuzzy feeling here, but I definitely, I don't think they want to see it go past June. I don't think they want to see it go past
I understand.
April, you know?
Mhm.
It's just, it's kind of, some of the stuff is a little out of their hands. The due certification process is, there's not a lot of companies that do that, and the one company that they're using is actually out of California, and it takes 6 to 8 weeks for that to get processed, so.
Yeah, I just used it, well, if it's, it could be the same company.
Yeah.
Clear title on two different
Right,
parcels.
it's a pretty complicated process, but.
Let me just, from a standpoint of your conversations with these people, I'm under the impression they certainly want to move ahead, but they're not going to move ahead on this property until they finish the build-out on the Thomas property anyways. Is that correct?
No, it's all gonna be going forward
No, it's all
together.
Yeah,
together?
it's
Yeah.
all
Okay.
together, yeah, it's all part of the same.
It's all one phase.
So
Site
one
plan.
Yeah,
project.
and they're, you know, moving along on their other projects, so they're very anxious to get this one moving.
Well, one question I have, and I asked Jennifer, we haven't gotten any kind of a deposit or retainer, or any kind of money from them at all. Now, as we're going through all this paperwork and zoning and planning and all these extensions, is there
There's no money at
No,
risk.
no, we have escrow money to pay for the engineer and the planning
So
consultant
if they
and the
should,
planning
for some reason,
commission.
renege,
All the work that's been done, we have escrow money for that.
okay.
Yes.
That's put up.
But there's no penalty money.
No.
Okay, there's no option money, there's no dollars at risk for them, and there's no tax cost to carry the property. Because they haven't.
Well, there is the escrow money that they have invested in it already.
Well, of course, and as any
Of course,
developer would
putting
do.
towards
you-
site
you-
plan and everything
You
else.
would do that to see whether or not you have a viable project to continue to go ahead on.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of, what they're doing is they're escrowing money to pay for services bought. Correct?
Yes, and I'm sure they have a lot of costs that they've incurred
Sure.
to do the things that they've done too, without us.
Part of development
Right,
risk. Sure.
yes.
I guess my bottom line question is to Jennifer, if for some reason, whether the economy or whatever, they can still back out of this if they want, right?
Well, I mean, there's several, back out. They couldn't just say, okay, yeah, we don't want to do this. I mean, it's more than that. You know, there are mechanisms through which that they can get out of this arrangement. They're so far in this at this point. They're in it. So,
They've
I
got the
mean,
site plan pretty well developed. I mean, they've.
just where they are with legal and their engineering and their architects, and I mean, they're in it.
They've done an awful lot of work.
They've
site
spent a
plan
lot
wise.
of money.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so both of you, full confidence that they're proceeding. Really, the only obstacle is some of the legal obstacles in the
Lawyers.
way
Yes.
are taking longer than might have been decided.
Lawyers. Lawyers.
Them lawyers.
I don't doubt their intent, but it seems to be, I kind of agree with John, not to hold our feet to the fire necessarily, but extending it out to the 10th of December, when we're sitting here the first part of February,
Yeah,
seems,
doesn't make any
seems
sense.
excessive to me, and, you know.
Should be staged.
Well,
Yes, they are,
okay.
they are meeting with
So
planning.
you
and-
saying June 10th and one additional 90-day period? I mean, they don't want it to go past June, so I.
You know, and
Well,
I don't want to be unnecessarily difficult,
Yeah.
come across that way either, but
Yeah.
extending it 11 months when they're far along seems unusual, I will say that.
Yeah. Well, whatever you guys are comfortable with, I can.
I think that's standard language, because that's
Yeah.
the language that was in their purchase
Yeah.
agreement, so they've just put
Well,
that
it's
standard language.
But the timing isn't standard. The
I
timing-
know.
The timing is a negotiation.
Right, I'm just saying it's just their standard language that they're putting back in this
Sure.
one.
You want me to just say
You
one?
can certainly change it.
One period, or?
So if we do,
That would take them to the
September.
10th of September then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're more familiar with how far along they are with the process. It
Yeah.
just seems to, okay, we're far along this process, everything's going great, their intentions are pure, but we're gonna move it out 11 months, the due diligence
They're
date.
not gonna start construction in December.
No.
They're planning on starting that a heck of a lot earlier than that.
They are planning on
When they
it.
get site plan approval, give them a certain amount of time after site plan approval, like
Those would be
30
my-
days to get all of their stuff together.
That was
Once
my
they get
next
site plan
suggestion.
approval,
They've already
That
got.
should be ready to
Yeah,
go.
they've already got language in their purchase agreement that it makes all of this partially conditioned on, not just site plan approval, but they need a lot of different approvals, so. It's already kind of triggered by that, but this other stuff has to happen first.
And the biggest stuff is the clearance of title
Yeah.
is what you're talking
Mhm.
about.
Well, the master deed.
On
for
two
And the
units.
master
The
deed.
master deed dealing with
'Cause they-
Karen Hills.
They have to get, they don't have to, under the condominium act, because of the way that the village acquired the property, it's really just a matter of notifying the condominium owners that 10
Right.
is gonna be withdrawn. There's no, like, approval process from the condominium owners. It's just a process that, it's just a legal process that you have to go through with the recording of the master deed and.
Is it your opinion
Understand.
that by narrowing this timeline, moving up the end of date, that it would, it all motivate or move this process along quicker?
I think that if they could make this move quicker, they would make it move quicker. But I feel comfortable going back to them and saying June 10th, 90-day extension, because they don't even want that extension, They want it to be done as quickly as possible,
If you-
so.
Then let's go that way.
Yeah,
That'd be
if
my
you feel
recommendation,
comfortable
but
with
they
it,
have
Yeah,
I
no
that's
money
fine,
for it.
if that makes you feel like, you're.
I'd be good with that.
I
With
think-
the pulling a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to approve the amendment to purchase agreement with a 90-day extension?
Yeah, beyond the June
Support.
10th.
Motion Nagy, second Scott.
Change the, to June
It's just
10th.
changing the number on the last sentence
Yeah.
of the amendment number, paragraph 1.
Yeah. So you're changing the date to June 10th, the due diligence period to expire June 10th.
Well, that stays the
and
same, right?
one- No, because it
And
was
one
Well, it says
February
presented
8th
period.
is when it was. It
Oh,
expired.
you're right, yeah, you,
Yep.
change that, but then below that, then cross, Xing out the 2 and putting the 1, right?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Now, just to clarify it a little bit, this addendum, this amendment that we're looking at does not override any triggers.
No,
And what are those triggers that you talked about, going back to what Michelle said? If they have a site plan, is there a trigger 30 days thereafter? Is there any other trigger?
well, I mean, they have to get approvals, they have to get money approvals, governmental approvals, you know, for
Mhm.
infrastructure and
Sure.
whatever they need, like DEQ or all their approvals. There's- I mean, they have to have a lot of that in place for the time to run.
I mean, this isn't their first project.
I don't have the exact language.
No, they're not
Oh,
rookies.
wait,
They're
here.
pretty experienced as to how to set this up, and I think just my eyes would look at it and ask the question, what do we read
Here we
and
go.
should we read into their intent?
Um,
I'm not saying negative, but just, if they've got 35 projects around and they're looking for continued extensions, there might be good logical reasons, which we're talking out in here. And if I was a developer, I would probably push to make sure I didn't close because I don't want to pay taxes. So I'd keep my extensions running rather than go to a close and have to commit to do building. Even keep my options running not to close, so I don't
Even-
pay taxes. It's
E-
just a way
Even just
not-
hold on to the time value of money of
Because he
the
has- yeah.
actual purchase price, which
Sure.
is not that much.
Everything
of
that's
it.
going on right now is certainly of their benefit to make a decision on the economics of the project. So,
Well, we can always, if
Sure,
we're
we can
convinced they're
always-
making
they can come
progress,
back at us.
we can easily extend again, right?
Yeah, we can always extend again. If
So
we
I don't
get
see-
here and we get
it's-
report back, like title company is like, Michigan, we don't know where Michigan is. You know,
Well, Pat, did you get the feeling that they were wanting to stall anything?
No,
last
not
planning
from the
commission
last
meeting? I
planning
mean,
meeting, no, I
They
agree.
came before planning and they had a lot of stuff put together.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to get to the point where they can finalize things, I believe, next month. As
That's
far as
fine.
site
Well,
plan.
see, that's
Yeah.
great,
Good.
that's
So,
great.
Let them do
I
that
feel
then.
pretty
I don't
good
have a
about it.
problem with that, you know?
So let's cross out the 2 and put a 0.
So,
Let's just make it June 10th with.
so I think our 90-day extension is gonna work well. If we need to go beyond that, then, you know, we can always cross that bridge again.
do you need to, do you wanna, I mean, I guess I can tell you all of the things that they're responsible to do before the closing. Is that what you kinda wanna know?
If you want to see this
You mean
agreement, I
the
can.
list of items that
I
they
can-
need?
Yeah, I
yes.
mean,
Right.
it's all this
Yeah.
stuff, but.
I would think the master deed issue was probably the most difficult one legally, but other than that, there's normal construction issues out there.
Got some reading material.
Okay, anybody else on the motion?
There's just one question, I guess, how did it expire to begin with? I mean, why didn't they come to us sooner and say, hey, you know it's gonna run out and we need an extension? I mean, it was like, just like after the fact almost.
Yeah, no, I
No,
mean,
we knew
we've
it.
been talking about it.
Yeah, we knew it was
It's
gonna
not,
expire.
you know, it's not like we were gonna say, all right.
No,
you
I
know,
didn't think we were
yeah.
gonna say no, but I mean,
Yeah.
there was no contractual, they'd have to slip between the cracks because we didn't have something in place.
No, because they have 2 90-day extension periods already
Okay.
in there, so they're
Okay.
good for another 6 months right now. It was
All right.
just, oh yeah, February 8th, you know.
Oh,
just
yeah,
let's
gee, I
do
forgot
it,
about that,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been, the discussions have been going on, it's just, we've been looking at the amendment to the master deed and the tax certification process, so. It's actually been a lot of work on this lately.
All right, anything else? We get a roll call vote on the motion.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, that brings us to our second call to the public. Opportunity for citizens to address council regarding any and all village business. Seeing none, I will close the second call to the public and move on to item I, set topics for February 2014 work session. I think we would like to talk about goals. It sounds like the fourth Wednesday is going to be problematic for several of us. So, pull out my village calendar and my own calendar. Would next Wednesday work for people? I think, Ed, did you say that's,
I come back on Wednesday, but I'm not sure what time I get back. I kind of think I'd be back in time to make that first Wednesday.
He's talking
We're
about
talking-
the
we're talking about
nineteenth.
February
No, the
19th.
The 19th.
A week from today.
A week from today,
Yeah,
Taking
that
care of
works
his
fine.
calendar.
the third Wednesday.
I was reading something and not paying attention.
I don't know.
Can't keep
Pull
both
my
things at once.
calendar up.
Something's going on.
Is that gonna work?
That works for me.
I can make it work too, I think. I don't have my phone with me, so I don't know for sure, but I think I can. I know I can't make the 26th.
What's the date of that, Mark?
Well,
That would be
February
February
19th.
19th.
Can you make it then?
I can make it.
I think I can. I don't think I
Okay.
don't have my schedule.
Do I hear a motion to set a work session to discuss 2014 goals for February 19th at 7 o'clock?
So moved.
Motion Sikowitz, second Nagy. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. That brings us to update from Captain Ellsworth.
Hi. It's good to be back.
Welcome back. Glad to have you healthy.
As you know, we were pretty laid up there for a while. 4 out of 5 of our full-time officers had pneumonia in the month of January, so that kind of took us down a little bit. But I attended the MACP conference last week, the Chiefs Conference, and had some pretty good discussions with many different people. One of them would be Jim Santelli of the Traffic Improvement Association, or TIA of Michigan, who they're our traffic engineers. And with the passing of Bob DeCordy, our former traffic safety engineer, I feel it may be necessary to contract with TIA of Michigan in the future. I will be meeting with them again near future here in the village, just to have some initial discussions, and obviously Sharon and the council will be informed of those. I also spoke with a representative from the Michigan Taser Company in regards to new tasers and have asked for a quote. Our current tasers are over 10 years old and are starting to falter a little bit, and we don't want to be in a bad way. I've had brief discussions with Mr. Kondek regarding use of forfeiture funds for the purchase of 5 new tasers, and I hope to be making a presentation for that purchase at the next council meeting. As you know, most of you know anyway, we're down another officer for the next few months due to a surgery. We're going to be on a pretty tight schedule until spring. Due to this and other unforeseen circumstances beyond our control, we're going to and unavailability of certain instructors, we're going to move our annual block training, our annual recertifications to the fall. So that's our AED, CPR, first aid, and legal update, along with defensive tactics. So with that, it's been a pretty trying time, obviously, over the last 18 months. 16 months of that, we were down an officer. And it continues on. It's going to continue on again for some time. So that is one discussion I would like to have with the council. Maybe next week it might be a good time to do that. So other than that, I'm glad to be back. We're still not all 100%, but the only person who didn't get sick was actually on vacation during that time and actually canceled his vacation to come back and work to make sure it all worked well. So I appreciate their sacrifice, but it's definitely been a trying year so far.
How's your new ride?
The Tahoe was incredibly useful in the
It was
last
a
few
good
months.
year to have purchased
Yes.
it.
I,
Definitely.
Yes, it was definitely a good year. And I actually talked to the Chevy fleet dealer and the General Motors people themselves, and they're making some additional improvements for the 2015 that will be coming out in September. And some of the perks so far, not to pat myself on the back, but we did some good research on this Tahoe. It's already saving us money. People might think that it's using more gas, but actually, it has that engine that shuts down to 4 cylinders, so it's saving us some gas because we have so many idle hours on it. Our oil changes for the next year are free, so we can't beat that. I just run it over to the Chevy dealership, and they change our oil for free, do all the tire rotations and everything. So, and that's another thing, is we don't have to keep repurchasing tires and rotating them. They rotate them and they take care of it for us. So it was a really good investment. Brakes haven't been a problem, front end hasn't been a problem, and it sure worked out well to have a 4-wheel drive in this weather. So, you know, our DPW can only do so much with what we've got. We've got hammered this year. So obviously record snowfalls, and it's really worked out well. So I didn't know that was going to happen. And I thought I'd buy a convertible if we didn't have to have snow anymore, but unfortunately that happened. So
So I think you mentioned at a previous meeting that you would consider recommending another Tahoe to when we have to replace another vehicle?
yeah, actually, this is a little premature,
I mean, it's
obviously, for the budget
premature,
session, but yes, I am going to recommend Tahoes from here on out and stick with just those. Reason is our maintenance costs on the current cars are astronomical. I replaced the front end on the Charger, on one Charger 3 times already, and on the new one that has 22,000 miles on it, I've already replaced the front end. And brakes twice. And brakes, I don't know how many times
Those
on the older
vehicles
one.
aren't under warranty?
Not for the front end parts. They'll replace them one time, and after that, that's pretty much it. So we're getting very high mileage on the one. It's over 75,000 miles for that car. That's such a medium duty. It's not a heavy duty vehicle. It's not like the old Chevys and the Fords used to be. These are medium duty vehicles, and they're just not lasting. And what I'm planning and what I would like to be able to propose is over the next 2 years replace both vehicles with Tahoes. And with the resale value of those Tahoes, I think we'll be almost at a break-even point. So, but that's a plan down the road I'll work on. But
Okay.
so far, I think that is definitely where I'm leaning.
Thank you.
Sounds like a 2015 budget year plan.
I think so.
Anything else for Captain Wells? All right, update from the treasurer.
Mr. President, Sharon and I met with our emissary from the Oakland County Equalization Department on Monday to talk about property valuations for the upcoming year. And very briefly, we want to report to you that the inflation factor as determined by the state of Michigan is going to be 1.6%. And what that means to people on an individual basis is that, assuming you've done nothing to your house in terms of improvements and so forth, it hasn't sold or become uncapped. All things being equal, if we were to put the taxable valuation will go up 1.6%. That's good news from the standpoint of it's predicted. It has been predicted. I think we gave you the sort of flavor that we had kind of hit our trough in terms of value over the last couple of years, and that we now see this uptick. Assessed valuations, which, as you know, are more akin to, are moving with actual taxable value, or actual true cash values, have moved up an average of about 7% in the village. But again, what you need to understand is that, remember, we're capped by this inflation factor, so we're not going to have the benefit of, if you will, of seeing a 7% increase in taxable value. Interestingly enough, where we've seen the most growth has been in the condos. The Heron Hills project sales have picked up there, double digits. Lakefront property is doing very well. The majority of the village, though, is probably somewhere in the 2 or 3% range. Commercial property, the limited amount that we do have, which, as you know, is mostly apartments, that's actually gone down a little bit. So we're not anywhere, we're right in line with county average, we're right lockstep with commerce, we're not an outlier or anything like that. There are still a couple of areas within Oakland County that are losing value, but good news on every front. I mean, the number of sheriff sales countywide is down considerably. So the number of foreclosed properties obviously falls in lockstep with that. We'll have final figures and we'll know more after Board of Review meets, which will start the first week of March. You may also, if I could have just one more minute, are probably vaguely aware of a vote that's coming up this August. It has to do with the repeal of the personal property tax and substituting that with something called the use tax. Personal property is kind of inexactly named. It really is tax on businesses, furniture and fixtures, leasehold improvements, machinery, equipment, things of that nature. That's subject to repeal with the replacement of the use tax, which is something that you pay basically on internet purchases and so forth. Its chances of passage notwithstanding, I just wanted to let you know that as this becomes under the microscope and is discussed further, personal property is very, very minimal in our village. One thing that's already gone into effect is that anybody with a personal property valuation of less than $40,000 is now wiped off the tax rolls, regardless of what happens with the vote this year, which is a little cart before the horse. Our personal, that impacts us very, very minimally. It's only about $170-some thousand worth of property. It's only about $1,700 by my calculations. Most of our personal property is in the utility property, Comcast, AT&T, Consumers Energy, and DTE. None of that property is subject to being phased out. The tax on that property, I should say, is not being phased out. We're only talking about tax on commercial and industrial property. So whatever happens, it will have a very minimal impact on the village. And as soon as I know more, or we have more exact figures, I'll be sure and let you know. Before we meet again next time, we will already have started the budget process with memos to our various boards and commissions and our department heads asking for early input based on data that I'll give them through February.
Mike, if I can ask you, I thought I heard part of a news statement about revenue sharing, and the possibility Lansing is looking at going back increasing the revenue sharing. Is that
Quite
Yes.
right, Mr. Nagy. That's in a proposed budget from the
Yeah.
governor. Who knows where that will lie? It sounds like there's going to be quite a bit of discussion
Okay.
before that takes place. But both constitutional and statutory, you're right.
okay?
I think the number I saw was 15%.
Yep.
Which may be a fairly small chunk, but every bit helps.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Update from the administrator.
Well, as you've noticed, the DPW has been out quite a bit this winter, and they're doing a great job trying to keep up with the snow and the ice, shoveling out the fire hydrants and trying to keep the residents happy because of the large amounts of snow that has to actually go in your driveway that you have to shovel out. And we apologize for that, but there's just no other way to plow. The aeration contract has been signed, and the pond guy has accepted the conditions of the contract, and he's working with the DEQ right now to get a permit, so I'm hoping that's moving along, and the ice will be off the lake soon so we can get started.
May.
Soon being May.
May.
And that's all I have.
Sharon, where are we at with our harvester?
Well, we're still working on that. We're still working on the contract with them.
All right. Council comments. Let me start down there this month. Scott.
I am looking to going back down to Florida soon, since I just no. Good council meeting. Thank you. Trying to warm up, actually.
Nedrow.
Just wanted to congratulate Jennifer Hansen for getting on the Commerce Parks and Rec Board. So we have a voice from the village now, so, which is what we were hoping for.
Yep.
Yep, and she, might I add, she's already been doing a good job in terms of getting us in better contact with them, especially on that pathway committee. We've had some discussions. They're gonna do a pathway session coming out. She came back to us, so it's really already helpful.
And the other thing I had is, on our correspondence, there was a free planning essentials workshop slated for April 12th, which is Saturday from 8:30 to 12:30. And it's going over principles of planning and zoning issues. I think it would be, I'm gonna mention it to the planning commission, but I think it would be great if everybody on zoning board will get there and possibly people from council also. So I'm planning-
I did
I missed it
meet-
last year and I'm planning on going this year, so.
I did email that to all of the boards and commissions.
Good. That's all I got.
Sinkowitz.
Basically, everybody have a enjoyable and safe Valentine's Day, and fishing is doing real well in Wolverine Lake right now. That's it.
Cumbo.
Nothing about today, Mr. President.
Kaznicki.
I really have nothing to report either, but I was kind of curious, does anybody know how thick the ice is on the lake?
Between 10 and 12 inches.
Because I heard a guy where I work today saying that he has upon his yard, it's deeper than 12 in his part, so I'm just curious.
It depends though a lot, because the water that runs off the road that goes into the lake, that makes it a little thinner, and then in the
Mhm.
deeper holes where there's a current, but most every place I've made a hole, it's been real close to 12 inches.
Hasn't been much water running off the roads lately.
No.
But the snow, we've got such thick snow on it, it really does
The Great
insulate it pretty
Lakes
well.
ought
So
to
you
be in
would
good
think
shape next year.
we'd have 3 feet of
Exactly.
snow,
God, I hope
3
it
feet of
gets
ice,
worse.
but it insulates it pretty well. It's not that thick. But, good luck finding the ice under all that.
No, I don't have anything either, thank you.
Nagy.
Yeah, I'm, like everybody else, I'm tired of the snow. And DPW is doing a good job, and I've got a lot piled next to my driveway. If they got nothing to do, they can come get some of it. I can't even see backing out anymore. And I'm glad that the DPW is working to uncover fire hydrants for a safety aspect. Thank you.
All right, and for me, what I just wanted to say, thank you to DPW, thank you to the police, thank you to Commerce Fire, thank you to the tow truck drivers of Michigan, because it's been a really hard winter on a lot of folks that have to be outside, have to do those things. So,
Yeah, good point.
and thank you to everybody for being patient, because the winter's made us all pretty cranky. So I am assured that spring will come, that the tilt of the earth continues, and that the spring equinox is upon us in just 5 weeks. But I have some doubts about what that groundhog in Pennsylvania said. So
Blame the one in Howell.
I'm blaming somebody. So that's it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn to a Caribbean island. Lacking that, a motion to adjourn to our closed session.
So moved.
Support.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Nedrow, to adjourn to our closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned to closed session.